qualify as independent candidates. And as you correctly put it, the IEBC had already informed the aspirants that the deadline will be on the 4th and not the 8th. And so they're just rushing to beat that deadline today. And we'll be waiting to hear what will be the next course of action if at all they move to court, and what the court will be giving their verdict. Betty.
Thank you very much, Chris Tairu. They're joining us from Westlands, talking to us about that jostle, that last-minute jostle by independent candidates to submit their applications. Coming back to my studio conversation, I'm with Joseph Shimeka, who is the ODM strategist. Thank you very much for staying with us. So now you've heard some of the issues there, and a very interesting scenario is that guy who, finally got his certificate, but then he had already resigned from his party. Looking at the primaries, do you think we're improving with all these issues that you're hearing? Quite dramatic turn of events.
Actually, incidentally, when you compare to the primaries, begin even in 2002, 7, 13, for all the parties, there's an improvement. Just because the drama, I think, steals the limelight. Yeah. And if you don't analyze deeply, you may not get to understand that there is actually an improvement. There has been a semblance of organization for all the parties, but particularly the two big ones, Jubilee and ODM. There's been a semblance of organization up to the lowest level. So there has been an improvement, but that's not to say that it shouldn't be better. It ought to have been better for all the parties. Right. Some of the things, the drama you are seeing here should have been avoided. For example, unfortunately, in my observation, the IEBC in some instances has moved and made decisions in a manner that appears not to have been consultative, not to have extensively consulted with the key stakeholders, which are the political parties. Right. So when it is setting the deadlines, for example, some of them are set in law, in the constitution, in law, so there's no choice. Yes. But in terms of setting out the roadmap, IEBC should have had discussions with stakeholders so that certain things start well in advance, and there's an adequate period for dispute resolution. This appeals processes. Yes, appeals. And conclusion, because you have to cater for an appeal within the party, an appeal at the political party's disputes tribunal, and even up to a court of law. It can actually end up at the High Court. Okay. So it should have had all this in mind. But when you look at the appeals period, it's squashed it in such a way that for the parts, both big parties, actually, most likely appeals are ending today. Yes. Arising from these appeals, a case could be could be filed at the political party's dispute tribunal. Could be determined a day, 2, 3, 4 days. Yes. Supposing it's determined in a manner that someone feels, in that case, I need to be an independent candidate. Oh, yes, yes. But let me take you to what they're complaining about, the timing. And you see them showing a copy of the, what they say is a gazette notice that was published in the newspaper. It may be a gazette notice, it may just be an advertisement in the newspaper that IEBC put there. IEBC could have made a mistake, may have made a mistake. I was just looking for the relevant part of the Constitution, but what I remember is, I think what may be mixing even them up is, it talks about 90 days. Yes, 90 days. Not 3 months. Of course, when we say 90 days, we know it's 3 months. Yes, 3 months. But remember, these months have, many months have up to 31 days. So perhaps when someone went to sit down and critically look at it and say, hold on a minute, it's not 3 months. It's actually 90 days. It's 90 days. We must remove these extra days. And then it pushes the date to 4th. It pushes it to 4th. But then, and indeed there seems to be evidence that IEBC had advertised and publicly said that deadline is 8th, and that it would appear that that was a mistake, IEBC must not be the beneficiary of that mistake. The beneficiaries of that mistake must be the public. The aspirants. Yes, the aspirants. Right. It's unfortunate, it shouldn't have happened, but since it was a mistake on the side of IEBC, then the beneficiary must not be IEBC. Okay. It should be the aspirants. And I suppose if they go to court, as they're saying, I would like to believe that court will listen to them. Yeah. There are many, again, I repeat, for whom the process is ending today. And you're telling them again the deadline for independent candidates is today. Is today. Given where we are as a democracy, very young, still struggling, you do not really want to shut out anyone. Okay. If really they feel it within themselves They like to say that the people want me, the people have asked for me.
Yeah.
If something within them is telling them the people want them, give them the opportunity.
All right.
Let them get into the contest.
Okay.
Yeah.
As we wind up the conversation, let's go back to the delegates' conference tomorrow. What would it mean for a Raila win come August 8th for ODM party as a constituent party in NASA?
Of course, it's a big thing. If your party candidate wins the presidency, you know, it's really the biggest prize in the 5-year political contest. It is the biggest prize. It means that now there's a lot of attention on the party. You really now are the ruling party. There's a lot that comes with being a ruling party. You know, all these parties, although they have, for example, political parties fund, it's hardly enough for the parties to function, to carry out all the functions of a party. But a ruling party has a lot of advantages in the sense that a lot of its people are in government. They have access to opportunities. Out of these opportunities, and one would hope that this is honest earnings. They support, yes, one would hope so, because it's not about going to lose government so that you can support your political party. But say he's the president, he will obviously be earning a higher salary than whatever he's getting now.
Yes.
Hopefully, he can contribute a quarter of his salary to the party.
Yeah.
Just to give an example, it has advantages.
Okay.
In terms of donors, you know, it has a larger profile. There are donors internally, externally who support parties, but only when they see prospects. But this will not be a prospect. This will be the real thing. They want to continue supporting the winner, so the party gets to get a lot of support. Even politicians from within, if and when he wants to push the agenda of the party, which is a social democratic agenda, you only do that when a person is at the helm.
All right.
So he will be able to use that with his colleagues to push the social democratic agenda of the party, particularly as reflected in Article 43 of the Constitution, social and economic rights that the party believes that Kenyans must enjoy, as provided for in the Constitution.
If NASA does not clinch the presidency, you know, there are critics who are saying that come 2022, ODM will not be able to field any candidate because Kalonzo, as the running mate, according to the agreement, will be the one to take over the mantle.
Well, you say if, and I think the operative word is if NASA doesn't.
Yeah, it is a scenario.
It is, of course, it is. You go in expecting and preparing to win, but also prepared to accept that you can lose. So yes, absolutely, it is. Well, Kalonzo Musyoka himself has hinted to us, because there are certain things which these principles agree, and they are not for circulation to the public. There are certain things they agree, and they say this will be a public document. So they have hinted to us that there's an agreement that ODM as a party wouldn't field a candidate at the next elections after Honorable Raila Odinga has done his term, inshallah. And I'm supposed you're asking this question because there are people within ODM who are angling that after the exit of Raila Odinga, they would like to have a stab at the presidency.
Yes.
First of all, I believe if there's an agreement like that, that detail, the party would respect that agreement. But then these things are not cast in stone. What if Kalonzo Musyoka defects to ODM? Because it can happen. It can happen that Kalonzo
I guess we're still working on ifs.
Yes, it can happen.
Yeah.
You've seen,
what if everything remains intact, like everything remains as is right now?
If everything remains as is and the party has entered into an agreement with its partners, the party will respect the agreement, every bit of the agreement it has with its partners, unless, only if circumstances change, dramatically change.
Okay.
Like the kind of thing I'm saying, it may sound very far-fetched, but these things happen. They could decide to merge.
And become
one party.
One party.
Ford Kenya ANC could decide to get into ODM and be part of ODM. You just never know.
Or ODM would decide to join a Mani National Congress.
Mani National Congress.
Okay.
So we just wait to see, yes. A lot of these things are actually in politics are contingent on how situations unveil.
All right.
Unveil, yes.
Finally, what is it that NASA has to do to clinch this presidency? Remember the reaction that came about after the announcement of Raila Odinga as a flag bearer from Uhuru Kenyatta and his deputy. They literally just said, that's nothing different. We defeated them once, we'll do it again. So what is it that, I know it's strategic. Maybe you'll not tell us everything, but do you think you have any ideas in your pockets to make this time round, fruitful for NASA, for the opposition?
Yeah, but first of all, isn't it laughable that it's Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto advising NASA on who to put forth as the presidential candidate and running mate?
It's politics. I think it's an open space. Anybody can give whatever advice.
I don't think NASA is interested in their unsolicited advice. I think they have enough to deal with in their party anyhow. They have enough to deal with. And NASA and the constituent parties in there, in consultation with their members, have found that this is the best decision under this prevailing circumstances that they could make. In consultation with, I've said, their members, meaning the voting, the public, the Kenyan public that has expectations. That's why you saw that it took quite a while. It wasn't about these 4 people, now 5, negotiating. It was about the teams that they had formed within NASA, actually consulting party members and also generally the public in this country. What is it that would be good for us, for Kenya, not just for NASA, but for Kenya. And out of those consultations came this decision that under the current circumstances, between now and August 8, this is the best team you can put forth to compete with Jubilee. And so you're asking, are there some tricks?
Some bag of tricks in your pockets?
Yes, clearly, yes. There are lots of bags of tricks. And that's why when you see people in Jubilee react the way they are, disparage Raila Odinga and so on, he has hardly ever, if at all, responded. He oftentimes will just laugh when and the rest of the principals as well, because they know that it's not what Uhuru Kenyatta says, it's not even what Raila Odinga, Kalonzo Musyoka, Mudavadi, Wetangula and Ruto, Isaac say. It is what they've heard from the people across the country, and is how best they aggregate those things that they've heard from the people across the country, aggregating interests, bringing together all those interests, all those fears, aspirations, and whatnot, and then how they articulate those things.
The same things.
Because they will not be addressing Jubilee. They will be addressing Kenyans. So if and when Kenyans hear them, that they have grasped what we told them well, they have a good plan for realizing what we told them we want them to help us realize in this country, they will get absolute support of all Kenyans.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We wait to see. Joseph Simeka, thank you very much. We only have 95 days to go.
Yes,
so hopefully your bag of tricks will be sufficient.
Very soon after tomorrow, then we will begin to unleash one by one.
And Jubilee, before we go, Jubilee is also holding their National Delegates Conference on Saturday.
Apparently, yes.
Apparently.
Yes.
Do you think it's a reaction to, or it's
yeah, they may have realized after they had...
strategic.
They may have realized after they had ODM announced, it's like, oops, we also need to because remember the 2 people endorsed themselves up to 2032 already. They already said that Uhuru Kenyatta and then Ruto twice. So they've already had their national delegate conferences up to 2032 and made these decisions.
All right.
Anyhow.
Thank you so much, Joseph, for your time. Joseph Simeka is an ODM strategist. All right, so we'll take a break right now on the show, but we're coming back in a few minutes. We're looking at something very interesting that is being launched, and this is the new HIV drug. We'll be telling you lots about it. This pre-exposure prophylaxis of HIV and HIV self-testing